All right. Hey, everyone. I hope this is coming through okay. I've been working on the streaming software that Clark and I play with, and I'm getting things set up for me to be able to do some of my own streams. So go ahead and leave a comment. Everything looks and sounds good. Just make sure that we're starting this off right, because it's a new setup for me. So, but yeah, hopefully some people hop in and join. We're looking at the Reno Pro 45 from Monport. Going to take a look at that. I got it in earlier this week, got it briefly set up, and have really just run a couple of quick tests on it. So thought as I'm testing it tonight, I might want to go ahead and invite you guys into the shop and hang out and work with that a little bit. So we'll hold on and let people join in as they can. Otherwise, hit me up with some comments, questions as well. I mean, about this or anything else. We'll try to answer some of those as we go along as well. But yeah, hopefully everybody had, at least in the U.S., if you're celebrating Thanksgiving, had a good holiday, and hopefully maybe you're off today and resisted spending too much money on Black Friday. It's a condensed shopping season this year, with Thanksgiving being so late. We're going to roll right into less than 4 weeks from Christmas already. So anyway, all right, well, we got Papa Mike here, and of course Clark. Yes, he's saying that Steve has all the cool toys, and as I've mentioned, it's winter here, and yes, everything I have in my shop is cool right now because it's only about 55 degrees in here. So anyway, yeah, hopefully everything's going well. As a matter of fact, before we get too far down the rule, let me double check my audio on here. So, because I was playing with some settings. Thanks for reminding me there, Clark. Audio. Yep. It's jumping around to the wrong one. All right. This should be better. Let me know if that's better, Clark. Kevin, hey, from the Twin Cities. Good to see you here. Yeah, it's getting cold here in Minnesota, which means I'm not going to be. So I've got this hooked up through the smoke extractor from Monport, and we'll go over it a little bit deeper. On the back of this, they actually have a 5-inch exhaust port, which is great. I'd rather see that than a 3, but I've got their older smoke extractor, and so that has like a smaller 3-inch one and then a 6-inch one. So I 3D printed an adapter just to at least be able to do it in here until I can get it hooked up on my other primary system, and then I'll be needing to make another adapter to go from 5 to either 4 or 6, depending on where I put it. But anyway, yeah, good to see everybody hopping in here. I'm going to do one more test with the audio. I want to see if I can switch over to my portable mic. So I'm going to do that, and let me know if the audio works or if it's horrible or anything. So we're going to do that right now. All right. I'm trying the portable microphone. So let me know if this audio is okay, if it's horrible, if I should never, ever do this again. I'm just thinking as I'm moving about the shop, this mic will help me have better audio quality for everyone. So let me know if you can hear me. It does sound still good. Jason says, okay, good. Just double checking, trying to make that. I know it's horrible when audio gets bad. So, all right, good. Everything sounds good. Well, maybe we'll leave it on this one for now. That way I can move around some. So, but anyway, welcome everyone. Welcome. You got Robert, Richard, Sharon. Hello, Jason. Good to see everyone here. So, as I mentioned, Monport Reno, and as a matter of fact, I set up a second camera so we can take a look at that.
Let's get Clack's goofy message off there. So yeah, that's the this is the Monport Reno. They have two different versions. This is the Pro version, so it supports Lightburn. The other one has a different software. Right now, it's on sale for like $1,500. So for a desktop unit, sounded kind of interesting to check out. So it is a 45-watt CO2 laser. It has a type of Ruida controller. So if you're using Lightburn, you are going to need to have their Pro version of the license on it. It's not a lot bigger. As a matter of fact, I need to compare it to the K40 series. It's roughly the same size. It may actually be a little bit narrower, but they've condensed things in there, and it has a 12 by 16 working area, so about double the working area of your typical K40, M40. It has air assist built in. What I'm testing on that is, I think it's got like your typical aquarium pump on it, and it kind of just constantly runs, which is fine. But I think one of the things I might look into that is can we tweak that? Can we change that? It does come with a honeycomb and a slat bed. I'll show you that in a little bit. So nice to have both those options. And the bed it's a manual lift, but it at least has that. So it's a lot of upgrades over kind of your typical entry-level K40, and we can touch on them a little bit more. As a matter of fact, I'll switch over to the camera and show you a few of these things. So if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in there. I will try to pay attention to those and let you know. So Paul, that's a good price? Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what you're looking for, because in the desktop CO2 range, you've got a lot of them like your X-Tool P2, your Atom Stack Hurricane, the OhmTech Polar, Glowforges and all that. And they're mostly all in one. Now this one doesn't have the chiller inside of it. You have to use a separate one. So it's kind of competing with them, but on a kind of a step down from them. But it's definitely a step up from your K40s, your M40s in working area and in capabilities and some of the things that you end up adding to them. So is it a good price? Well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm hoping to find out here. I want to do some testing on this. So some of the tests I do today, I'll be including in kind of my overall review video type thing. But it's that's what we hope to find out. And it's definitely a better price than some of those other all-in-one machines. So for the person, especially like the hobbyist that maybe isn't doing a lot of for sale work, but does want to start getting into like clear acrylics and having, the capability of a CO2, this might be a little bit better option than those K40s and M40s, because typically when you buy those, you get into them for about $500-600, and then all of a sudden you start upgrading everything, and pretty soon you're at $1,000-1,200, maybe close to $1,500. So that's something I hope to figure out with this is what can it do, and maybe what its advantages are over the lower end CO2s, how it might compare to some of the higher end ones. So we will take a look at some of that. But let me switch over to the other camera, and I'll show you a few things that I've noticed already. So, all right. So, like I said, it's 12 by 16 area. There's got the honeycomb in here. Now the honeycomb just sets in place, and if Clack and I, we like to have them try to be fixed in place. So that's one thing that I'd like to see, something in here that's going to grab it a little bit better. And let me move you just a little bit closer. You can see the internals a little more. And here we go. So, like I said, the honeycomb just sets in place. You can pull it out, and underneath it is where the slats could go. So they provide you these slats, and they kind of have that trapezoid-ish look, and they just set into these rails. They're not too hard to put in or out. Now you can't leave these in with the honeycomb on, because they do stick up above the bed just a little bit. But if you're working with larger material and you're not worried about small parts falling through, these are going to work well for limited flashback, and they pop out easy for cleaning. Otherwise, like I say, the honeycomb tray, you just bring this down and you set it in place. I mean, it holds pretty well. It can move around. I don't know that it's going to slide too much unless your machine's really on something unstable. I think at minimum, I might add some rubber feet, and or I'll probably figure out a way to maybe pin it in place or something, just as an upgrade I'd like to do. Now, it does have a lifting bed, and they call it semi-autofocus. So the way this works is you have this little knob over here in this corner, and when you twist this, it raises and lowers the bed. So it's not automatic. It's not even motorized. But again, you know, if you're going for a budget CO2 kind of entry level with enough of the features to be, you know, fairly useful, that's okay. Even on some of the larger cabinet CO2 lasers, you're going to see it's just a knob like this, and it's not necessarily motorized until you get up to the higher levels. Now, as far as their focus and what they're calling semi-autofocus, they have this little red plunger here. And what that does is you put your material underneath it, and you pop the plunger down like that, and then you just slowly raise the bed until it springs up like that. And now that should be focused on the top of the material. The other thing they provide you with is this little gauge. So it's a step gauge, and it goes from 8mm up to 14mm. You would simply place this underneath the nozzle, which is kind of being hidden right now by the camera, but you'd place that under the nozzle here, and you would raise or lower this up to it. And then that would bring it into focus for whatever height material you're working with. So a couple focus options. If you're, you know, I'm used to this kind of method with my original CO2 laser because I had just a spacer. You'd bring it up under the air assist cone, and that was in focus. And then you'd create a step down one like this. So, and nice to see they'd include it, considering it's not truly automatic focus, but that's, you know, again, budget laser. So how we doing on comments there? Let's just see. Everything's doing good. Hey, Jack, good to see you. 3D Puck Tech channel, good to see you too. So typical gantry style, the belts, the rails are kind of tucked in these kind of aluminum channels. So good from keeping things clean, but when it comes to cleaning, I'll have to see how hard it is to get at those to clean them off and oil them. It does have a red dot alignment thing, a laser on the side. It doesn't show you the beam path for alignment of mirrors, but it will show kind of the dot spot on the material when you're framing and such. So that is an option to help with framing, but not necessarily mirror alignment. And if I can get some things out of the way here, we'll lower this down a little bit. At the back, you see they do have a fan. And like I say, I think it's a 120mm fan. And the port on the back is about 5 inches. So that's built in. I believe it can come out maybe from the back side. So if you're using your own air exhaust system, you'd probably want to remove that fan and not have it be obstructing that, but at least something to get you started off. So they do include, like I mentioned, the chiller isn't included in the machine itself. And so the kind of the basic option is they give you this aquarium pump, and you would put this into, say, like a 5-gallon bucket of water, and you would hook that up. There's 2 hoses on the back of the laser. And that is one way to do it. What I am using is actually their CW3000. Now, this is more just a radiator than an active chiller, but it is far better than just the bucket of water because this creates a sealed system. The water pumps in through here, through the radiator. It cools it down as best it can to at least ambient temperature, and then pumps it back through the tube. But there's no, once you have it filled up, it's a sealed system. So you can't get dust, you can't get you know, any sort of microbes in there that's going to cause any issues with the tube. So at minimum, I recommend going with this. If you're in a climate controlled environment, you can probably get away with this. If you're in a hotter area, you'd probably want to step up to their 5200 series and get the active chilling. So, all right, I'll take a quick break here, check in with how everybody's doing. So, like I said, this is the Pro versus the 40, just the regular 45, and the big difference between the two is primarily the operation of light burn. And so I can, as a matter of fact, I can probably pop up the, there we go. Here's the laser manual. So, like you see on here, fairly identical. It's just really the control panel that's on here. And so you see it a little bit closer here. If you're familiar with the M40 or any of those light burn enabled K40 type controllers, that's the control panel for that. But this is what this one is. It's a color panel. You can actually run files offline from it. You can do a lot of control from this panel itself. So it's a lot more like your typical larger cabinet style CO2 laser. This bar up front that's on the front of the laser, besides just being a cool red color, it does slide out. And so that can be a pass through from the front. But there's no pass through on the back. So you can get longer materials in as deep as that will allow you. So, and DGS 751 says speed is faster on the Pro 2. Yeah, I figured that might be the case. I just wasn't sure. I'm trying to read up more on the Pro so I understand it, but trying to also understand the differences. And then down on bottom, they do have a drawer to kind of a crumb tray to pull out any debris and drop and such. So here's the back of the laser. It's easier for me to show you this here than on mine. Like I mentioned, this is a 5-inch outlet with that fan going. And so it's nice that it's a bigger port. 5 inch is kind of an odd size here in the US as far as venting. Normally it would be 4 or 6, but you know, that's where having some adapters, ideally in this situation, you would scale it up to 6-inch ducting if you have that rather than down. But and then simple power, the plug is on the back. That's for that water pump I just showed you. Generally, I don't recommend using those. I recommend putting on a switched power outlet so you can turn things on and off on their own. But it does have it there. And then over on this side, you have your water inlet and water outlet. So very basic on the back. On the side here, that's on this side, that's where you have your power switch, your e-stop button, and your typical USB. So not a lot to the outside of this laser. Fairly well built. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't feel like pressed metal per se. It's more of like extrusions and formed aluminum and such. So I think it's maybe a little more durable. But and the other the manual's kind of basic. They do talk about the different materials you can cut with it, and some safety notes about it. One thing that I wanted to find here towards the bottom is they do give us some guides to get started. Now, this is the other thing to pay attention. This one doesn't have an ammeter right on there. And so they give you this guide that you don't want, this tube, I believe, is rated at 20 milliamps. So that's right here. You don't want to go over 55%, because when you overdrive the tube over its rated milliamp rating, that's when you do the most damage. So anything we do is going to be under 55%. We're going to consider that kind of our 100%. And I haven't tested to see how low it'll fire. Some lasers don't like to fire as low as 10%. Some of them are up in that 12 to 15. But anyway, always good to read the manual, because there's some little bits in here. If you got this and you fired it up at 100% right away, you're going to be risking doing some quick damage to your tube. So outside of that, I think, so yeah, they do have some recommendations for specific materials, and I think towards the end, maybe, yeah. So they give us some suggested parameters for cutting, and always nice to have that. What I do is start with that and do my power and speed tests from that. So anyhow, how are we all doing? It's good. Like, see, we've got a few extra people here. Clayton, welcome from Hawaii. I'm sure a little warmer than I am right now. I think it's about, it got up to about 17 degrees here today, and I think it's back down to 15. So we're going through a little bit of little bit of a cold spell here, but it is, you know, as Clack would say, Southern Canada, and it is winter. So anyway, Jason Long, yeah, the Onyx won't fire below 17% power. That's a thing with a lot of the CO2s. They have kind of a lower end, whereas the diodes might go into the single digits, you know, like down as far as 5% or something. A lot of the others won't fire until they're up at a higher power rating. But all right, so I'm going to turn this thing on, and we'll check some of that stuff out. We'll do some material testing and such. Also going to depend on how well the smoke extractor does on this. If I get smoked out, I'll have to pause the test because I don't have it hooked up to my normal extraction system. Partially because it's so cold out right now. I don't want to be sucking in the cold replacement air. But anyway, let's switch over to some thinner plywood. I'm going to go grab that real quick. All right, this is some of that Home Depot plywood that I did a video on. So this is close to an 1/8 inch, just a little bit over it. But we'll run that on here. I've already run the tests for Baltic birch. Now this does have limit switches and it will home. It does home in the upper right though. So that is something to pay attention to. Let me switch this over to where you can see what I'm doing, and we'll drop that out of there. So here again, we're gonna try not to make it too sick, but get this in a place where you can watch it. We're going to do the focus on this one using this plunger again because I'm trying to get used to that. It'd be great to hook up a little motor to this, just have a couple buttons. There we go. So that's in place. And now you can hopefully see behind there, or maybe you can't. There is the little red dot alignment that's showing, and that's just pointing from off to the side. So, all right, so we need to go into light burn. Now there are special drivers for this that are included on the USB drive. So if you are getting one of these, you'll have to install the drivers from here, and then Lightburn will detect it. Matter of fact, I'll show you this here. It's here it is, the Monport Reno Top Wisdom DSP controller. So that's what we are working with, and we need to make sure it can see it. Right now it's showing up as disconnected. Technical difficulties on a live stream. Imagine that. Plug it back in. Hey, Jack. Jack in the shop. Good to see you here. Nipa, good to see you as well. Well, it is not being happy with me. I am going to close Lightburn. That. We'll reopen it. Yes, Clack likes to say, I get all the cool toys. You know, one of these days, that hashtag is going to start trending somehow. There's probably other Steves out there with cool toys. All right, let's see here. Let's make sure everything is. Now this is going to be one of those times where computer doesn't like the extra cameras I have plugged into it. So let me do this. See if I can switch USB ports. Trade Skillers Anonymous, good to see you here. Oh. Which one is it? All right. right. Hey, Ryan. Ricardo, what does Vintari means? I don't know. So the name Vintari came back when I was in college, maybe, and I had to pick a username for some system or something, and all of them were all the typical ones I was looking for were taken. So it's kind of a mashup of some, you know, sci-fi fantasy type names, and so yeah, it doesn't really mean anything, but it was something that stuck. It was a unique name, and now it kind of works for pretty much everything that I need to get a username for. So I use it. Let's see if we can get this laser to communicate. And Dale's asking, when you talk about power at a max, is this set on the machine or in Lightburn? So a little bit of both. So I haven't dug into this one, but most of the DSP controllers, you can actually go in and set a maximum power for, so like if you want 100% to actually be 50% power coming from the power supply, you can do that. It's just that you got to kind of keep that straight with anything else. So the 55% is what I would set in Lightburn. Tell it don't set up anything higher than 55% according to that chart that we were looking at earlier in the manual. So okay, that is on, that is working. Why is the computer not? Lightburn's not wanting to see it. We're going to go look in Device Manager. Don't mind me, just talk amongst yourselves and we'll get this sorted out. And the computer is seeing something. Okay. That's there. It's working properly. Okay. Let's try this. There we go. All right, sometimes you just have to kick it. So now I just need to make sure I didn't break the other camera. Let's double check that. Yep, that's still working. All right, so let's hide this. All right, we're in Lightburn. We have the laser is now showing up as ready. I'm going to go ahead. We've homed the laser, make sure that's working. So I am going to set up a material test in Lightburn. And they do have some preset ones. Let's take a look at this cut test. 5 millimeters a second up to 50. Well, that's going to be way too fast and possibly way too slow. I did already test some 1/8" Baltic birch. So I ran these the other day, and this is on cabinet grade Baltic birch. So it's a little bit tougher than your typical craft plywood. And we were getting through at, again, 55% power at around 16 millimeters a second. So I am going to, since this is a similar material, I'm going to go from, let's do like 12 to 18. So our max, we're going to set at 18. Minimum, we're going to set at 12. Power, and again here, we don't want to go up to 100%. We're going to go, I'm actually just going to go to 50. No sense in pushing it to the absolute max. Now we don't need as many of either of those. See if I got my math right. No, too few there, but we got. Come on, give me some even numbers. There we go. Yeah, we'll jump up by 5% of power, and we'll just go up 1 millimeter a second speed. That all looks good. Text setting. What is this on? This is on line. That's probably okay. We'll see how that goes. And we don't need the border on. Oh, and I wasn't even showing you that. Sorry about that. So here's what I've set up in Lightburn. I've got 7 count. We've got 12 millimeters a second, 18 for the max, minimum power 10 to 50. And so this is what it's going to look like for our test grid. We're going to go up by 5% in the power from 10 to 50, and then 12 to 18, stepping up 1 millimeter a second there. So Lightburn always defaults to centering your material. So let me switch over to that. And we'll do the frame function first. We've already focused it. And since I didn't change my origin, it's always going to go back to that home spot. There, that's probably the least amount of material to waste. So we're already focused. We'll put the lid down. Oh, that camera is not working. All right. Wonderful set of issues here. Let me get that camera working again real quick. And we'll, so if I jump over to that one. There we go. All right. Get that focus. Okay, so like I said, it homes up in the upper right corner there, and I've got my material set up. I'm framing it out to where it's just going to hit this corner there. We've already focused it. Air assist just seems to be constantly on, so that's already humming away. I'm going to turn on my smoke extraction, and we'll get the material going. So. And we have a protection error. Is it not reading the... Okay. And there we go. All right, so it's going about its test. It's going to do the text first, which looks like I have set a little hot. And I got to turn my... So we'll let that run here. Yeah. Too many gadgets on one PC. Yeah, that's just it. Clark and I are always talking about that, actually having to add USB cards and such to control all the devices. So Ryan, you tried a Reese's Take 5 garbage, do not recommend. I'll keep that in mind. All right, so it looks like it's going through the cutting part. We'll see if any look like they might drop out. Like I say, I was kind of just guessing on the range. And some of them might be held in place by the honeycomb, but anyway. So yeah, this is the joy of testing a new laser. Hopefully anytime you guys are getting one, you're running through these, but of course, anytime I get one in for review and such, I like to run through a number of material tests, kind of get a baseline, and then try to do some normal, typical type tests on project type kind of stuff. The machine's not too loud, which is nice. I'm probably getting just as much noise from the exhaust, the smoke extractor and everything as than the laser itself. And we're just getting done with that last line here. So now, one point of concern I'll point out, since it's in frame here, is this right here. So this is kind of supposed to be your protective glass, but they have this section here that's the handle. Well, you know, that's viewing right into the area. So it'd be nice to see that that was more just regular standout handle and this was sealed. But let's take a look at this. All right, tap a few times. This must be a little more dense than the others. It wanted to go through, but didn't quite. Like that one. See, these will press out. So 12, we were kind of getting through some of this. But I don't want to, I always hate pushing too hard because, you know, in real tests, you might have some real fine material and it doesn't, you can't always push through it. But we were getting through at 12 millimeters a second, 35 to 50% power. Let's see if we can run this test again. I'm going to double check our focus with the block itself, though. See where we're at. And I think I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Actually up. Bring the bed up so the laser is focused a little bit closer. Then I won't even change it per se. We'll run it again. All right. Since it's already in the controller, see if I move this over here for you. Yeah, it's kind of washed out, but since it's already in the controller, I can just go ahead and hit start again, and it'll run the same job. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about the text on this one, Clock. We'll dial it in. Anyway, yeah, the white speed space, it does seem pretty nice. It doesn't dally between objects. So like I say, once I kind of get the idea for the speeds and capabilities, then I can actually start running on a few different jobs. Maybe run a curve test and try out the little house thing for a fit and things like that. But anyway, how's everybody doing? Everybody survive Black Friday without burning up the credit cards too bad? There's been some deals I've been resisting that I need to make decisions on if I'm going to do it. Of course, did a lot of shopping for the kids and such. So Christmas is going to be here fast. Don't want to be that. I mean, you know, I know as husbands and fathers, we're supposed to do that whole wait till Christmas Eve to go shopping thing, but fewer stores around that have stuff on hand. If you wait that long, you can't necessarily do it. But anyway, we'll see how this is working. Like I mentioned, the air assist in here seems to be an internal pump, and it does. You could feel the air coming out of the air assist cone, but you know, Clack and I have always talked about being able to dial in your airspeed as a whole nother test to help optimize things as well. So that's one thing that I would love to see if there's like a bypass. I don't know if this controller has a relay port on it that could work with an electronic valve, but would be all the little things that you got to see how it does stock, and then then see what are like, would be nice to have upgrades versus our, deal breakers as far as that. So far, it's that all the things that I would have done to a K40 seem to be included in this one. Ryan, you lit 3 houses today. Yeah, I imagine. So I would hope that work kind of slows down a little bit for you as people get closer to Christmas. But I mean, obviously you want to stay busy. But Charles, have you used Creative Fabrica? Yes, I have played around with it. As a matter of fact, in a couple of my recent videos, playing around with ornaments and such, I've used it a couple times to pull in elements. And I mean, there are full-on laser-ready files out there. So it's an interesting. I like to use it for people like myself that tend to get maybe creative block. I'm probably a little more engineer minded than I am, design and polish. And so having that as a resource to kind of pull in some ideas for how to brand a Christmas decoration or what, it is nice. And they've had some deals going on recently where I think it's $4 a month. And so if you use that to make one client item or, as a hobbyist, you're doing gifts for people, that's not too bad. So I have played around with it. As a matter of fact, XCS has added into their software their design find, and I'm told it might pull part of Creative Fabrica in on the back end for some of that stuff. They may have worked some deals on some of those, but so yeah, I think for the price, it's worth at least looking around. Most of those things are vetted. You're not going to be getting stolen files. You get commercial rights to sell the products you create with it. You don't necessarily have creative rights to take those designs, modify them, then resell the designs. But if you want to make physical objects and sell those from all those, you are given the creative license for that. So booked up for 2 more weeks, Ryan. Well, that'll give you enough time to get rolling on that Gatton Christmas challenge, right? I saw the video on that this morning. So if people aren't aware, Ryan does a Our Biology Designs. Look him up on YouTube. Otherwise, I'll try to dig out the link. He does a Saturday night live stream with some guys, and one of them used to be Dave Ganton. He's now more kind of a random guest, but they've been running this kind of. It's been more of a CNC challenge, but now it's any robot. You create a Christmas themed project. Record it, do some video of it, post. It doesn't need to be a fancy video, but post kind of a little bit of in production and a little bit of the end product. And then they've got all sorts of cool prizes from CNC people and Cody at Cadence Manufacturing and other stuff. So if you want a little bit of a challenge and some fun this Christmas, go check that out. It'd be great to see lots of entries for him. So anyway, let's jump over here and take a look at our file, see if we did any better just by changing the focus. Nope. Well, maybe. Got to hit it harder. Let's have just that snug of a curve if it wants to hold in by friction. So a little bit more on that one. Make sure I've got that in there. So just kind of squeaking through at 14 this time, a couple of 13 still. Yeah, I don't know that any more of these would pop through, but so that's kind of giving us an idea on the this material. So this is that Home Depot Pure Bond. I think it's this is probably the maple, and it's got kind of a light density core and a real thin veneer on top and bottom. So some material that works decent, and you can ship it from Home Depot's website. You can get this shipped to you. I think they're in like 19 by 16 or something around there. They're kind of in project panels that a lot of our lasers can work with. But all right. So that's one material. Like I said, the Baltic birch the other day, that was getting through a little bit faster, but it is a touch thinner. So it just could be playing with that. And I should probably do a ramp test to really double check the focus, but we will play with that a little bit later. Let's try, I'm going to grab another piece of plywood and we'll try some engraving. random box. All right, I've got a piece of, this is like 1/8 inch. It looks like more of craft plywood, but we're gonna give this a shot. And we'll run a similar test, but we'll do it with engraving. So I am going to reference their manual as to recommended parameters. So for plywood, here, maybe I can bring this up. All right, so this is what I'm going to go off of. They've got plywood right up here. They're saying 400 millimeters a second, 30% power, and a scan gap of 0.08. So let's play around with this. So if that was 400, I'm going to go from, I think the top speed of this is 600. So let's go 300 to 600. Change this to fill. They said a line gap of 0.8. Bidirectional. No. And again, our power, now we're going to leave it at 10 to 50 because we don't want to go over that tube's rating. Let's see where, show that. Yeah, we can jump up by 50. This looks pretty good, but let's change our text. Bump up the speed, drop down the power. We'll do both. That way we're more guaranteed not to be able to see it. All right. So we'll, I'm going to leave the same focus because that's about the same material. And no, actually, I'm going to refocus this. So again, we're going to try the plunger. I'm going to move this back down a little bit. Down. And we'll slowly raise this. Just going to go off their stock, their recommended factory settings. And then if I don't like that, then I'll start playing around with doing my own ramp test and figuring out a focus. All right, we need to frame this. All right, I want to move that over. There we go. Now we won't be wasting any material. We're framed up, our lid down, and now this is another interesting thing too. So in Lightburn, when I do all that and I hit start, it does want me to name the file because that's what it's transferring over to the laser. But I only have like, I don't know, 8 characters. So we'll just go with that. And it's off to the races. So probably still a little hot on the text. That's okay. We'll let that run. So we'll get caught up here. So DJS, you need a mini PC. Amazon has them $125. I run 4 lasers off mine. It's 8 gig RAM. Yeah, I saw one of those today. I've used them at work for a variety of things. They tend to run for a while. We've used them for like digital signage players and such. If you run them too much constantly, I don't think they are very happy, but it doesn't take a whole lot to run Lightburn. So what I really should probably do is have my computer that's running the stream and then pulling in a feed from a different computer that's running Lightburn, because it would just be my luck where I'd have to restart the computer because of some Lightburn thing during our stream, and then it kills the stream, which is no fun. So I'd have to call Clack in to entertain people. But yeah, if you want to send that to me, I mean, hit me up on Facebook or you can email me off the contact that I always like hearing from people, their ideas, their thoughts on things. Try to answer their questions. I am this is a part-time gig for me. I do have my normal job as well. So if you do send me something, I don't get back to you right away. Don't take it personally. Just sometimes I get busy with the day job and everything else. But let's take a quick close look at how that's going. So it's getting a pretty deep engrave there, and it's being pretty smooth about it. I'm not hearing a lot of crunching or grinding, which is good. You never know with some of these machines. So this one's going to take a little bit longer to run. It's doing those engraves. But yeah, other things I've been thinking about is Onefinity came out with they're partnering with a company to provide spindle units for both their Elite and the Pro Series CNCs, which it's all buried behind stuff back there. I'm still running my trim router on there. I started gathering the things for a water-cooled spindle, but I'm debating switching that out just to an air-cooled spindle. Just the extra hassle of running a chiller and the water lines. I don't know that it's worth it for what I'm doing. The big benefit there is that it wouldn't be blowing air down and causing a hassle with my dust extraction system. If I had something as cool as Clack does with his Shopsmith thing right there, maybe it'd be running better and I wouldn't worry about it. But I do worry about that a little bit with my setup. I've got it on a Cyclone off the shop vac. This is just too far away to run it to my dust collector for that. So anyway, we're moving through those lines. Hopefully everybody, I did send out some links, at least through my community page and on my Facebook page. Now's a good time especially if you're in business for doing these. Look at deals on blanks. I know Amazon right now has some deals on a variety of slate coasters. If you need marking spray, the laser marking spray, which I have my can somewhere. A number of those are on sale. As a matter of fact, you can get a Brilliance marking spray. They got their small 2-ounce can. I think it's $20. So, you should check those out. Save yourself some money if you can stock up on supplies and such. So, but yeah, we're about halfway through that engrave test. Let's see if I can bring up. Yep. The page for this one. All right. Jump too many windows. I used to have a third monitor out here when I was using my laptop. Now I only have 2. So, all right. So this is the Monport page, and this is the Reno. And like I said, right now, this is the Pro version, which works with Lightburn. It's a little bit faster. $14.99. The regular version, $9.99. Now, of course, they just came out and they're offering a $500 off. I don't know how much that price is going to change after their initial sale and their launch. It's one thing I caution people against, the fear of missing out on a deal. A lot of times these sales kind of roll one into another, and the price fluctuates a little bit. I mean, there's obviously times when you get a better deal than not. But it's not always that you're going to miss out on the sale and it's going to jump up to $2,000. But, something to keep in mind that this time of year they do have some good deals. And now they do also have coming out their Mega, which is kind of the P2 competitor, the Hurricane from Atom Stack, the OhmTech Polar, things like that. This is a 70-watt machine. I think it actually, one of the areas it does beat those others is in the cutting area. I feel like I just blew past that. So processing speed, 1,000 millimeters a second. Yeah, processing area, almost 28 inches by 13 inches. So which is the P2 they've got here is 24, and the Hurricane was closer to 20. That's one of the things I always talk about. Size of working area is huge. It's something that people, that's one of the things you'll regret is I wish it was maybe just a little bit bigger or longer or whatever. So so that's one thing that'll be interesting to see how that works out. But they've got a lot of the other similar things to it that does have autofocus, and it has a built-in fire system and flame detection, and I believe a camera as well. So interesting that more of them are coming out with these desktop CO2s. I recently I've had a I call it my eBay red and black laser, but it was a 500 by 700 millimeter CO2 laser I got 9 years ago. And since a lot of the diodes and these desktop CO2s came out, I just didn't use that one as much. It didn't have that much more working space than others, but it did feel a little more industrial. Its speeds sometimes are a little bit faster. It's white space scanning, things like that. But for kind of the one-off stuff, it wasn't as bad. Looks like our file is finished. So let's take a look at this. Wow, I think we went a little dark on that. So let me bring this over here. So that is you can see that it kind of goes from light to dark pretty quick. So might be the area where you want to defocus this a little bit, because I should get my caliper out and check that the depth. Well, the words on the back were actually blasting through. None of the squares did. But that's one thing you might notice with CO2 over diodes is you kind of notice here it's a very tan burn, and then it goes dark and deep. Whereas with the diodes, you can get a darker burn without blasting in so deep. So that's one of the reasons they're really good at engraving, is the diodes aren't as abrasive, or they don't ablate the material as much, they don't dig as deep, but they'll color it more, they'll sinter it more. That's what I was looking for. Now the flip side to that is when you kind of dial in your cut settings with the CO2, I've found I've been able to get a more of a caramelized edge instead of, it's a lighter tan instead of a darker tan, and some people, they don't like that dark engraving color. So just one of the differences with the CO2 over the diodes. But so this material, which it's real lightweight top anyway. Yeah, you could do, I think it went through 1.5 veneers on this one, down at the slow speed and the 50% power. So you could do some epoxy fills and such with that. But let's try a more. So this is a piece of poplar, so a softer hardwood, but a solid wood. I want to try an engraving on this and see how it looks. So I'm going to fire that up next. I think this file will even fit on it. I just need to get it lined up. All right, so there's the frame button on the laser where I can frame the last job ran, which is really nice that I don't need to jump back and forth to Lightburn. Just kind of get that lined up. Okay, that looks good, but I still need to adjust the text setting. These were let's bump the minimum power down. There we go. Just so it's not burning so hard. All right, so we're going to run with the same settings on that one, I think. And we'll just overwrite our file. Let's see how that text is going. Yeah, now I think I adjusted it too far. I think it's just barely scratching that, but that's okay. All right. So yeah, some interesting things coming out from Monport in the CO2 laser, desktop laser realm. I mean, we looked at we got the Mega and of course the Reno series. Like I say, I'm only 2 or 3 days into this one, but I think compared to the old K40 M40, this is light years ahead of that as far as kind of take it out of the box and be able to use it. Still got to have that external chiller, and there are a few things that are, they're definitely the budget method of doing it. So, DJS, you're right. I didn't refocus this one, so it's going to be a little bit deeper. Well, we can rerun it after this. We'll see how it runs with that. But I know there's a lot of people that get into their diode, get in their diode lasers, and then they want to get into like acrylic. And while you can do some acrylics, the darker, the opaque dark ones, a lot of people want to have those translucent ones. So they want to have clear acrylic as an option, and that's where CO2 jumps in. But jumping into a $3,000, $4,000 desktop unit like some of these others, it's probably a bit much if that's just what you want to do. So the K40s have been kind of nice, but they're also kind of limiting. So be curious to see how this one shakes out in some of my testing. I do have some. This is just some of your. I mean, I know this is probably just extruded. It's probably from Menards here in town. Stuff you'd find at the big box store. I've got that. This is roughly 1/8 inch. This is closer to 1/4 inch clear, so I'll be able to do some testing with that as well to see how it does. But anyway, yeah, the fun part's a test sitting there waiting for it to complete. I don't know if people saw, but Clack got in a new desktop CNC machine that he's starting to test. Dropped a short video on that today, so that'll be interesting to see what he's got there and how that's going. I know a lot of people have found us because of lasers, but both him and I do a lot of things in our workshop, and we kind of keep we try to keep focused on workshop stuff, but we do bounce around between lasers, CNCs, 3D printers at times. So I know people they found me for various reasons. I know some people recently have found me because of like my Tinkercad videos, and that's great. I do want to try to keep up with that as well. So just bear with me though. I have a lot of interests out here in the shop, and so I do bounce around a bit, but I try to put little nuggets of information, even on like machine reviews. I try to put some information out there that is educational. Maybe if you're not working with that exact laser, you're not looking to buy that exact laser, I try to include some tips of that kind of flow for most of them, whether they're light burn design tips or just process and workflow. So I always appreciate everybody's here, but I know that I'm not always on point for everything that they found me for, but do appreciate everybody's interaction on videos and hanging out. I don't do a lot of these solo live streams. A lot of times I get home from work and I try to do a few things here, but also doing things with family. So I will try to do more of these when I think about it and get things set up for it. But so hopefully they're interesting and people appreciate them. But Miss Crafty Universe, yes, we'll try to run some of that after we do a couple. We'll see how this engrave comes out, and yeah, we'll try to run that. Like I say, I have, if I get time, I've got some slate. We could always try testing that, and then I also have, these are some of those synthetic leather, so that's like got the silver backing on this. Now these are a little small. I was cutting these out for another project, another testing, so I had some spares. I thought these would make good for tests, but this is kind of cool stuff. Now this is just fabric back, but you can get the adhesive back stuff, and so you can make like hats and things with it. But another cool thing with those, and of course I've got the coated dog tags. I don't know that we're going to get through all of this in this live stream, but we'll play around with a few and see how long I can go with that, and see what we can find out. Otherwise, I will be putting out a full video on this. You know, try to get. Sometimes I do a project video before the review video, but like I say, I try to do at least both with them to get a feel for it. And if it's a really good machine, you see it more in future projects. So this one is, let's see, what do we got? We got a few more rows on that, but I'll have to double check here. So for cutting on acrylic, well, they're saying, actually, I'll bring it up over here so you can see too. This is their, again, this is their suggested parameters. The engraving for uncutting. So they have the thickness, the speed. The interesting thing here is they have it jumping from 60 to 80 to 90% power. And that's one thing that since I don't have, there's not an ammeter on here, I can't tell what it's running. I added one to my old CO2, and then like the M40 has kind of a milliamp meter in that digital display. So I don't know if they have it limited, and that's something I might reach out to them, because sometimes in the controller they will limit it to where 100% is 55% power. I don't know 100% if that is, so I might need to ask them about that, because if they're suggesting in the manual here to come up with 90% power on a couple of these for cutting, when we scroll back up to this other chart where it had 80% is over 24 milliamps, so that would definitely burn out the tube. And even here it says it's not recommended. The recommended maximum power setting is, oh, that didn't work, 70%, which would be about 23 milliamps. Now I should probably take the back panel off this. I did the other day just to make sure everything was good. Usually on the tube there's a label, and that will have the manufacturer specs, the time it was manufactured, what it's rated at for wattage, and then also its max milliamp. So that would be something to double check. So, but let's take a look at this engraving. All right. So as you see, the letters we made too many adjustments to. Get that out of the way. But non-plywood and more of a solid wood, it looks a little more even. You don't have those layers that it gets through and starts charring, but it's also just still it's a little more caramel, a little more tan. So, but yeah, so I'll have to do more engraving tests on there. Yeah, Jack, you're right. It depends on the power supply for the tube. So, for example, when I bought my original laser, it was sold as a 60-watt CO2 laser, and it had a 60-watt power supply in it, but it only had a tube based on its dimensions and such. I'm pretty sure that tube was rated for 50 to 55 watts. So they were overdriving a smaller tube with a higher power supply. So through learning and other things, I ended up swapping out that tube within a year, and I went with the true 60-watt, which meant I had to extend I had to make a box because it extended outside the chassis of that laser. So yeah, these are just some of the things with CO2 lasers you got to kind of get used to. That's one of the nice things about going with a kind of an all-in-one benchtop unit. It's all kind of set up. It's tuned specifically for that. When you get into some of the chassis that can have multiple options, or there may be more generics that companies like Monport, Omtech, and others, they'll contract with the company. They'll kind of build them to their specs, but they're not as consistent with their part stuff. So you just got to be a little more careful and double check things. That's where it's nice to have that milliamp meter on there. You can compare that with what it says on the tube and have a little more confidence in what's going on. So, but let's since there was a request for that, let's jump into acrylic. So this is a translucent. I mean, it's fairly, you can see through it, but it is red. I used it in you might recognize this if you've been watching my videos. I made a acrylic pen stand for a display, and this is kind of the scrap piece from that. But we will drop this in here and we will refocus, otherwise I will forget that. So let me jump over here and we'll use light burn to close that, and let's bring it down right there where we can. Got to get used to all these things. This Allen key. So I'm going to start by using the plunger first, and if that doesn't work, or if it doesn't seem to do as well, we'll switch to the other one. There we go. It popped up. All right. So going back to our chart, jump over into light burn here. The chart said acrylic, and this is between 2 and 3 millimeters. So they're saying about a speed of 10 power of 60. So I'm going to come into our material test once again, and we will go from, well, if they say 10, let's go 7 at minimum to 12. And our power from, well, cutting, we're just going to jump up. We're going to go let's do 40 to 55 just to see. All right, where does that look like now? All right, that's excessive. Let's bring these. So we'll jump up there, and yeah. All right, now our text. Who knows on this one? Oh, that's where we were at before on the wood. Yeah, we'll do that. All right. So we're going to go from 7 to 12 millimeters a second, and then from 40 to 55% power. And let's jump back over here. Let's make sure. I'm going to need to bring this. Try to make sure it's actually going to hit the area that we have. So brain. They're too high. And I'm going to bring it over a little bit more. There we go. All right. So we're good to go. Let's put this down. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that very well at that close, but we will send the job, change the name to acrylic. All right. Trying to see if the text is showing up. I think it is. See if I can get somewhere where there's less glare. It's also right on that edge, so I don't know. Anyway, we'll let that run for a little bit, see how it does on this acrylic. Hopefully it cuts through that. Like I say, it's just a touch under an 1/8 inch. Measure it maybe when we pull it back out, but like I say, I think the other thing I need to do is run a ramp test on this, really double check that the focus is where it's supposed to be. And eventually Oh, you know what? This is doing engraving, so I'm going to stop this. Forgot to change that. Edit material settings. That could start something bad. All right, so now we need to move it back over. Boy, that was engraving almost all the way through. And I'm going to bump our letters up just a little bit as well. All right, back to Lightburn. So you want to make sure this is online because we're going to be doing cutting. Okay, on that, 7 to 12, edit our text. Want that back up to 20. And we need to adjust this back to about maybe. Let's see if our framing looks good there. Yeah, I think that's about right. Let's double check. Yep, that'll be perfect. All right. Settings in check. Send the job. I think there's a limit switch on this door that acts as the door sensor. I think it's slightly out of adjustment because I'm getting an error every so often that it's the protection is going off because the door is not shut. So I might just need to double check that. Oh, come on. Maybe I need to put some tape on the door. There we go. And that glare on that shield is not helping us out too much. But anyway, now we have a test running on acrylic. So hopefully that goes okay. But yeah, this would be one of the primary reasons to get this over a diode is the ability to work with transparent, translucent acrylics. And we'll take a look once it's done, see what kind of speed it is, and then maybe we'll cut out a small part to kind of take a better look at the cut quality and the edge and such. So hopefully that works out okay. But anyway, what are other people's questions or thoughts on this one, or really anything else that you know in my shop? We got a little time for this job to run. This, let me see if I can find the photos. This did come in a big crate, and not a big crate. I mean, it came in a plywood crate, and I did share a couple photos of that on my Facebook page. But here we go. So yeah, came in this box. It's about 80 some pounds. So the FedEx guy brought it up to my house on a 2-wheel cart, and then I brought it back to my shop that way. Well packed in foam, of course, but it's not your typical. If you take delivery of one of these, you're going to want either a hand cart to get it into your shop, or, as you can see down here, 2-man lift. Once you get the box open, though, I was able to lift the laser up onto my workbench here without any trouble. I don't know. I'd have to go look and see what the actual laser itself weighs, but yeah. So that's what it ships in. And yeah, like I say, it's pretty decent. All right, looks like the job finished. pretty decent packing job. My only frustration with it is the amount of that dense foam. I mean, you can only use so much of it for storing tools and whatnot before it gets to be too much. So let's jump over here, take a look at this. All right, I'm already hearing pieces fall out. Also get a little trouble with that. Tap this to see which ones will fall. All right, so looks at 8 millimeters a second. They're falling out. If I push on the back side, 9 millimeters, they seem to be falling out, but not so much at 10. So we're getting through at 9, and looks pretty decent there. If I can get that to show. But let's use this spot over here, see if we can cut something out that's a little more interesting than just a test grid. All those pieces of honeycomb. Definitely going to make use of that crumb train a bit. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to need to see if I can find. I'm trying to remember. I have some ornaments around here somewhere. I think I have a snowflake one. Oh, sorry, don't have you up here. So, all right, we've got some snowflake ornaments, and that one's not going to cut out very well. Is that middle shape? That one's way too fine. Let's see if we can scale this one right and make a translucent red snowflake. All right, so we said, what was it, 8 and 9? Okay. Let's change our speed here to 8.5 and our power to 50. There we go. And yeah, that should be about it. Let's see if we frame this. Where's it gonna? It's a little too big. I gotta scale it down just a touch. And I'm just gonna move it down just a little bit. All right. Close that. Send the snowflake. Let's see if I can bring in any better to watch this. Get you right over top, maybe. It's these overhead lights I've got that are hurting me. I mean, I can try to turn those off, I suppose. I don't have that on a separate one. Anyway, we will let this run. It's actually almost halfway through now, but we'll get caught up here on some of the questions. Could I try some silicone watch bands with this unit in the future? Yeah, I probably need to go grab some. I'll have to get some inexpensive blanks. So maybe I'll see. There's probably some out on the Black Friday sale I should snag before they end here. But I do want to, yeah, I want to play around with that on this and some other lasers. So I'll try to grab that, and maybe I can include it in the actual review. LTX Designs, do you or any other experts in chat have recommendation for a dual light source laser? And you mentioned looked at laser packer, but I use Lightburn for my CO2. Prefer to stick with Lightburn. Neat field. Do wood and deep and great metals for branding. Okay. Yeah, I know Laser Packer's been working on their Lightburn integration with, because they've got they're two different levels. They're LP4 and they're LP5. So the LP4 would be kind of like the 2-watt IR and then the 10-watt diode, whereas the LP5 is the 20-watt diode and the 20-watt fiber, which is then similar to the X-Tool F1 and the F1 Ultra. Those are the two dual source ones that I've worked with that have any that I could recommend. I haven't really had my hands on any of the others. Most of them are straight fiber or diodes. So now the X-Tool ones, my F1, if you don't need a lot of heavy fiber, that one's fine for marking things. It won't do deep engrave on metals, so you'd need to be looking at the F1 Ultra in that vein. And I will tell you, it can do deeper engraves, but 20 watts, it's going to take some time to do that. So it does work with Lightburn to a point. What I often do is I will design in Lightburn, export it as SVG, import it into in the F1 Ultra stance. That would be XCS. I bring it in as an SVG and then set up my power and speed things there. The issue we run into is that a lot of these lasers start incorporating a lot of cool features, but that Lightburn can't support because it's kind of native to that laser, and then they have to try to figure out, can they do it with macros and other things to make them work. So I get you. I've been using Lightburn for a long time, but sometimes I will just still design in that software and then export into theirs just to be able to use the laser choice. But unfortunately, I don't have a lot of other experience with dual laser outputs, dual output lasers to speak to outside of really those two right now. So, and yeah, they're very similar in their performance. But if you're wanting to use Lightburn, I think the X-Tool tends to work a little bit better. But even the F1, you're losing the ability of the camera to be as precise and accurate and such than use their software. So it's kind of a tough thing to get away from their kind of home built software for it. And I think you're probably going to start seeing that a little bit more, because I know Atom Stack has been coming out with their software. I believe with the Mega, Monport is having some of their own software to take advantage of some of the features that they're going to incorporate with it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the people's use of things. But this is done, so let's take a look at the see how well it did, see if everything drops out. And it did not. Let's see. Oh, it is just scored on that edge. I mean, I think I could push it out, but I think we need to drop this down. And that's the thing with material tests. Sometimes it does well in the small square, but like in this, in the larger item, I have a feeling the plastic cut through, but it probably slightly fused a little bit. And unfortunately, I can't adjust the airflow on this one. Sometimes less air is more with acrylic. But we'll shrink it down. We'll try to cut it right in this area. We'll just slow down the speed a little bit. All right. I'll jump back into Lightburn here and scale this down a little bit. So anyone just joining us, we're testing out the Monport Reno Pro. It's a 45-watt CO2 laser, a little desktop laser, kind of a good budget one. And kind of see what it can do. So we've tested some wood. We're testing some acrylic. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to adjust our speed. Let's drop it down to 7.5. And you know what? Since 55 is our max, we will run it at that just to give it as much. Yeah, let's just take this down to 7. We're not doing a production run here. We just want to see a clean cut. All right. Okay, so I'm going to close that. Hop back over to that, and we'll double check. We're going to kind of hit that blur, that area right there where the light is. Let me see if I can actually just turn off just some of these lights. There we go. Get mood lighting on, and we will. Now you can kind of watch it a little bit better. You can definitely see that it's doing the outline there, but we'll have to wait until we can pop it up to see if it cleared it all the way. DJS, no, I haven't looked at a variety of the options yet. Just kind of running it stock to see how it's performing. Once I kind of get some questions or concerns from there, I'll adjust things to dial it in. Alan, welcome. Glad we can help you kind of show some of the abilities here. Again, I'm doing some of the tests I'll be doing for my review just to see how it goes, and thought I'd hop on live stream here and let everybody ask questions and give me ideas for things to test. So, for a newbie, what do you recommend for a CO2 for a beginner? That's a good question. I mean, there's a balance between best bang for your buck that kind of is a sliding scale, maybe over to ease of start for a beginner. So sometimes you can get a more powerful laser that maybe has a little more capability, but it's not as beginner friendly. And so I don't know where this one sits yet. So that's where I'm testing it out, and I'll be giving my opinions in the video and some project stuff. But so far, this one, if you're comfortable with light burn, hasn't been too difficult to get up and running and start doing these tests. Now, that's probably not quite as easy as some of the others that have their own software. So, Xtool P2 with XCS, they have a lot. They've got their material recommended settings that, if nothing else, you can kind of start there and instead of a guess and check. So there's kind of a balance there of how much you're willing to kind of learn and struggle through it versus having a little more of a guided, handicapped approach. There's pros and cons to it. You tend to pay more for the one and maybe give up some flexibility and features when you get kind of locked into that one environment versus having it be kind of easy. So let's take a look at this. Might have to turn the lights back on. See if it's going to drop out or not. One thing with acrylic is that it can, okay, so the center part did pop out. There's just not a lot of clearance between that head and whatnot, but so we did get the center star. Let me turn some lights back on here so we can see a little bit better. All right, so just looking at this star, I don't know if this will focus, but it is, there we go. Fairly clean, polished edge, and that's something you get a little bit better with CO2 than over diode. And you can even play with that a little bit more to get an even more polished edge. But that cut out, the question is, can I pop the rest of this out of here? And it does feel like it wants to come. Sometimes you just get little areas that are, like I say, they kind of refuse, but there we go. All right. So there's, get that to focus. There's our clear acrylic snowflake. Fairly nice, rounded, polished edges on there. It's not sharp. It's not jagged. So that's looking really good. And I don't see what this says. This one, the controller says this. So this is probably about 2.5 inches in diameter if this was a circle. That took about 2 minutes, 14 seconds, according to the controller. So not too bad. Everything looks pretty clean. Just had to pop it out there, but all clean cuts and nothing hung up. So, so yeah, there's some capability for 1/8 inch acrylic. Now I do have this, and that's extruded. Cast tends to engrave and sometimes cut a little bit better. This should be some cast acrylic, and while I'm thinking about it, let me get a measurement on both of these. So maybe we'll see if we can cut out a square of the thicker stuff as well. So this is, 0.11 inches or 2.8 millimeters. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what we just cut. So just under 3 millimeters, just a little bit under 1/8 inch. This stuff is 5.36 millimeters, just under, so 0.221. So still just a little bit under 1/4 inch thick for this stuff. So let me get this in here and get it focused. And see if we can cut out we'll just do a simple star on this one. All right, so I'm going to actually use what did I say? Okay. That's going to be too. Yeah. Now we'll use the plunger first, but usually that's for focusing on the surface. Okay. I'm going to actually bring this down just a little bit more to approximate getting that beam right in the middle of the material. All right. All right, let's jump back into Lightburn here, and I'm going to ungroup this. I'm just going to grab that center star for this purpose. Delete that. And what I'm going to do is, since this is over twice as thick, I'm going to drop this to 6 and actually add a pass. We're just going to do a little guess and check on this one. So let's see where we're framing at. All right, there we go. Like I say, this is just a blind guess. Let's see if we can move that along. Get the lights to where you can see, and the good thing is I'm just getting a little bit of an occasional flare up, just making sure that we're not going to get actual fire. All right. Oh, it's almost cut through. I don't know if it's just a backer paper or not. All right, so that's front, that's the back. I am going to see if it's just this backer paper holding it in. Otherwise, we'll maybe take that top paper off. Yeah. All right. Well, for a first guess, not bad. So you kind of see the cut quality is decent. There's a little, maybe a little more of a little less polished look. Anytime I have to use more than one cut going through some of this stuff, I get a little bit concerned about that. But there's with the backer stuff off, it's actually looking fairly clear. So almost 1/4 inch material. Let me double check this again. Where are we at? This is 2.2 inches or like 5.3 millimeter is where this is landing at. So definitely doable. Like I said, that one took 2 passes. I'd probably have to do a little more playing with it to see, you know, adjusting the focal length a little bit up or down to make sure that's centered. Things like that will help out a lot. So anyway, let's get our lights back on. Let's catch up on questions a little bit more. Alan says, get the most laser you can afford. You can always learn more, but you can't make a laser bigger. I mean, that's true. And that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier, is that the biggest regret people tend to have is that they need more working area. So as long as you have space and you're not, you know, like going broke, going way in debt for it, unless you have a real solid business plan for it. Yeah, try to there's always a balance between getting kind of an entry-level tool to see if you'd like it versus buying a tool that is going to be riddled with problems and make you not like it or make you not be successful. So yeah. So in this case, yeah, Jose, you're saying you're looking at Xtool because I don't know the Lightburn software. Definitely XCS is a little bit easier to get started with. That being said, there are people like myself, David over at the Clack Shack, Rich at Louisiana Hobby Guy, a lot of great videos out there on getting started with Lightburn and learning it. So it can be intimidating, but there's a few kind of starter things that you can learn to get going with it so that it's not as limiting. But that being said, Xtool, their software does make things fairly simple. But there are times also that you can sometimes feel a little bit limited or handicapped with it. So just take that in mind when looking at them. Let's see here. Coming up on a couple hours. Maybe we'll try one more thing. Let's see. Do they have some recommendations here for slate? So scroll down. Engraving. They've got granite, marl. I'm guessing that's marble. Okay, so they're saying 450 millimeters a second, 30% power, 0.1 millimeter scan gap. So I think I want to just see what it's going to do. Maybe we'll do another guess and check on this slate tile. So it's just a round slate tile. Like I say, I try to stock up on these whenever I find deals on them. I know Amazon has some packs on there that are on Black Friday sales, so I might want to check those out. But let's get that in there. Let's get over into Lightburn, and let's see here. Engravings. I have probably I need to save that. Yeah, we'll just take my logo, although I don't need the border on it. I'm going to delete that. Strange color, but oh, I haven't applied my presets to this version. New computer I set out here about a month ago, and I still haven't set up everything in Lightburn the way I want it. So, all right, we'll jump in here. We're going to change this to fill. They said 450 at 30%. And a line interval of 1. All right, so how big is this? That is definitely not big enough. Let's see how big our coaster is. Close to 4 inches. Yeah, we're going to make this, we'll go 70 millimeters. If you don't have a good caliper and you're doing laser stuff, definitely buy them. I have one recommended in my Amazon store that I like, and they are a lifesaver. So when verifying material thickness for box joints and things like that. So, all right, so I'm going to take the larger dimension. We're going to change that to 70. We've got the aspect ratio locked. So that'll resize that. Now we do need to jump over to the laser and make sure it's focused. So once again, start with the plunger technique. I'm just going to lower this down a little bit. Raise it up until that plunger pops. There we go. We'll consider that in focus. And I'm going to use the boundary frame, the rubber band boundary instead of the square. Down a little bit. I probably should have just set this at the origin at center. It would have made it a little bit easier. But all right, we'll call that, you know, just trying to eyeball both sides, make sure it's not going over too far. We'll call that good. So we're in focus, we framed, and turn the lights down so you can see it. Just double checking here, we've got our speed set at 450 and 30% power, so we should be good. Let's call that slate. Hit OK. Yeah, it looks like it's engraving, and I'm thinking I'm a bit off on my alignment. So, anyway, we'll let that run. Jack, you got an order for 100 slate coasters? Got them from Michaels. Yeah, I do a lot. If you can find them, Michaels has, I think it's like a 48 count, and the coasters come down to about, what is it, like 40 to 50 cents a piece. Doing that, I think, is as cheap as I've seen, but it's only online. Most local stores don't have them, and it's just subject to when they have them available. So a good spot to check for them. Otherwise, like I said, right now, I'm pretty sure that there are some deals on Amazon for them. But as a matter of fact, let me see if I can find those real quick while we're doing this. Let's bring this over here. So, small plug. If you're shopping on Amazon, you can go to amazon.com shop or /shop/Ventari. These are just some of my recommended things that I have between workshop tools, laser engravers, and materials. So here in materials, this is what I was talking about. Is right now they've got, get to see, you can see it a little bit better maybe. They've got some of these slate coasters in 24 packs, 36 packs. They're on sale. I'm going to save you, $5 off on this, and about $6, $7 off on that bundle. So worth looking at some of these things. This is one of the cameras that I've used in enclosures. Of course, glue is always good. So it's good to kind of jump through some of these and see what they've got out there for Black Friday sales. But yeah, if you're ever looking for stuff, I recommend. I have this page, and then if you use that, I get a small kickback, and helps me continue to purchase stuff for these tests and whatnot. I was talking about the marking sprays earlier. Here's a few, and I have them set up. I need to do a test. Maybe I'll do that here shortly. Want to compare marking sprays between CO2, diode, maybe even a fiber, and then also trying to compare the different brands. Is there a difference between any of them or not? But anyway, just thought I'd throw that pitch in there. Looks like our coaster's done. The controller says it took 2 minutes, 32 seconds. Bring this back over here into the light. And there you go. Not too bad. I mean, the contrast is okay. I think there's a little blemish of something up here on the top because it kind of faded out there, but I think there might be, I don't know if there's oil on it or something, but for the bulk, it looks pretty good as far as the contrast. Now, if you sand these down, you can get a smoother contrast, and then if you use like a polyacrylic lacquer or polyurethane coating beforehand, it makes this contrast a lot better. So something to consider. And I did a video on that with the X-Tool F1, kind of comparing between the IR and the diode. I think the IR, you also get a little bit better contrast. You get a little whiter etch on here, but not too bad. I mean, a couple minutes. This is just under 4-inch slate, but so that works out. It worked out pretty good. But anyway, kind of coming up on 2 hours. Probably I don't know. I may have missed dinner to go see if something was warmed up. I thought I was going to be out here testing this. Thought I'd hop on here and hang out with y'all and see. Show a little bit of the Reno 45. I'm going to be running some more tests with it, and putting it through some projects. Maybe doing some of my normal things, of testing kerf and such. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. If you're new here and you stumbled on here, thanks for joining. I do a lot of project videos, a lot of stuff around lasers, but as you see, I've got a whole wood shop here that I do a variety of things on. Do CNC stuff, do 3D printing things. Sunday nights at 7 p.m., myself and David from the Clack Shack, we jump on here and we do our Sunday Night Live. It's a couple hours from 7 p.m. Central to about 9 p.m. Central, and primarily just answering questions for people that join in. But we also share kind of what's been going on, what we've been working on. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely check that out one of these Sundays. And coming up, December 22nd. Is our last stream before Christmas, and we're going to be doing a bit of a Christmas giveaway. David and I have been working with some manufacturers and things on trying to find some prizes that we can offer up to y'all. So you'll have to be live. You'll have to be there to win and claim them. But I think we're going to have some cool things for y'all. So excited to be able to do that and give back to everyone here. But other than that, yeah, glad to see everyone here tonight. Like I say, if you have any last minute questions for me, let me know. Anything you want to test on this, either hit me up. You can always leave a comment on this video afterwards. I'll be watching those, but I'm going to try to get some testing done on this in the next few days to the week, and put at least some initial information out, and then we'll put it to test on some real projects as well and see how it does. But right now, definitely liking it better than like the K40, M40. I think it's a lot easier. Still some things that, like the air assist is kind of, it is what it is. It's nice when you can at least adjust that, or in a lot of cases, we like to then eventually upgrade to shop air and be able to dial that in. But And all those things might be aftermarket things we can look at. I want to see how this does as kind of a base laser, and see where I might recommend it for someone, whether it's starting out, whether adding to something else. Try to get that covered for you. So anyway, thanks again for hanging out. Hope you had, if you're here in the US, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Hopefully had a good Black Friday, at least a long weekend. I got another cold day here. Winter has hit. I mean, it's not snowy out, but it's definitely cold. Right now it's 10 degrees out. So winter's here. I'm going to be spending some time in the workshop with some of these things. And yeah, we will, if nothing else, see some of you on Sunday night. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you in the comments of Facebook and YouTube in the future. So thanks, everyone. Do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, have a good day, and get out in your workshop and make something yourself. We'll see you soon.